Hello and welcome to the Cup TV, the Currently Unnamed Podcast, where we put the real and the tea in reality, and you can always come here first to quench your thirst. I'm Brooke, and I'm passionate about pop culture, and I'm also passionate about rolling colored dice in an elimination on the challenge, apparently. Beside the point, I don't have a water. I probably should have grabbed one, but quite frankly, whatever. And I don't have any beverage of any kind, but if I did have one, I would put it in my cup mug. Cup mug. Lana's not here, but panel full of cup mugs. And you and yours can get your cup mug and other cup merch at laundrycreations.etsy.com. That link will be in the description down below. We do ship domestically in North America and internationally, so there are no excuses unless you live in a country that is currently underwater, under fire, on fire, dealing with a hurricane, tornado, tsunami. I'm not sure if it's tsunami season, but you get my point.
It's close enough.
Close enough. It's always close enough.
And hello, my name is Jack. I am the resident game designer of the panel, and I have no rivals because they're all buried. That is a threat. Anyway, this
Shout out
was
to
a
our
lovely
enemies from Swift Great Escape 1.
Just to be clear, we are not rivals. We actually have won a challenge-based season together, so we are bad casting for this specific podcast.
Correct. But you know what? Everybody's got a rival. And speaking of rivals, Rivals episode 2 has aired on MTV. Again, so happy that they're actually putting All Stars on MTV this year. It's a delightful thing to see. And we have our first elimination this week. We have our first bit of actual gamesmanship and not people just hating each other because they have to for the format. On the whole, a perfectly serviceable episode of the challenge.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of just like, oh, yeah, I guess we had an elimination that was close-ish. We had a challenge that was entertaining, but confusing.
Kind of entertaining.
Kind of entertaining, but we'll get into it. I have problems with it. I have problems with the current format of the show.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Massive issue, but
we'll talk about it. So we open up with a little bit of a party scene, aka every episode of the challenge, and then we go into like a brief little reminder of Fessy and Amber's rivalry and like what that stems from. In the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, they're either going to go home this episode or do really well at something. Overproducing the challenge is my favorite.
I mean, the minute that anyone gets spotlight on this episode, especially because half the teams get purpled per episode, like it's not even like subtle. If you see a team, they either have a standout moment, fight, or go home. So
yeah, watching people get purpled on this season is always funny because it's like, oh, it's never the team I want to be purpled, but like, because personally I could deal without Nani and Turbo. I would love to see them get purpled, which they kind of did this week. So
they did, but also they had the previously on segment.
Why? Like, sure, I guess they were like the main characters in the first week, but like, was anyone really the main character in the first week? I don't know.
Kinda.
Yeah. So
no, they were kinda. So
kind of. We go into this segment with Beth talking about how Nicole made fun of her jeans that she's owned for 30 years. And I'm like, Beth, you own a pair of jeans that have existed longer than Jack and I have both been alive.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm impressed they're still together and they don't have like massive holes. Like that's pretty impressive for 30 years.
Pretty good. They look just like some pretty good jeans, especially ones that have been through the challenge multiple times, apparently. Like, props to Beth. I must admit. Maybe it's because Beth doesn't really get down and dirty very often on the challenge. But
that's true. A lot of her down and dirtiness is verbal instead of physical.
Yeah, exactly. But Nicole's like, if anyone owns a pair of jeans for 30 years, I just don't trust them. And I'm like, I mean, weird reason not to trust someone. I would not trust Beth because she tried to, break up Johnny's marriage, but that's beside the point.
Every time I have to remember that information, it just like
I love how some of these rivalries are literally like, she talked trash about me at a challenge fan event. He called me pathetic, and then I called him a puppet master. She literally tried to ruin her marriage. Like, all of these other rivalries outside of maybe Ashley and Dario, because we still don't really know what happened there, are like such surface level crap. And then it's literally dated and have not spoken in 6 years. She literally tried to break up my marriage.
And then we kind of have Adam and Steve as well, who were like, yeah, it is surface level of like Steve making a very strong game move against Adam. But then the fact that they haven't talked in 1.5 years, like those three are the maximum. And then we have Devin and Leroy, who got into like a slight spat a little bit ago and do not give a shit about any rivalry they've had.
And even then, right? Devin and Leroy were never really mad at each other. It's not like Devin won that elimination and like tried to get Leroy out. It literally was F you, Leroy, and then he just moved on. Because like, watch the rest of that season. They don't have any beef the rest of the season, really. But like, beside the point, yeah, some of these rivalries are interesting compared to others. We get that. Speaking of Adam and Steve, though, we get this little segment with them talking about how they're both feeling about each other, and Steve's like, it's kind of like your brother, like he's still gonna annoy you 20 years later, but you're still friends. I was like, I don't want this man in my life. I don't want to talk to this man. If I saw this man on the street, I wouldn't know who that man is. And like,
my God,
there's never a wrong time for Keke Palmer.
There is never a wrong time for Keke Palmer. I just wasn't prepared.
But beside the point, them and then also Beth and John A seem to be at very different feelings towards each other, because Beth is like, squashed it. We're friends now. We're going to be really good friends. John A is like, I don't want her in my life. I would love to never see her again because, I don't know, she tried to break up my marriage.
It is great. I mean, it really does show a level of cognitive dissonance where it's like Beth is like, yeah, no, we talked, we're good, everything's resolved, and John A's like,
if he's good, I'm also sad.
Do you realize, like,
yeah,
just because you didn't see it doesn't mean it went away. Like,
it's crazy. Beth is nuts, but I love Beth because she's so messy.
I also do think that Janae is also very pissed because she is looking at Beth and going, we're not going to let me win for a third time. They just weren't. They cast Janae with Beth and went, no 3-time winner. We're not doing that yet.
Well, here's the crazy thing too, though, right? A lot of people talk about in this episode specifically about how Beth is a layup and like how she's going to just go home at some point, or they won her in the final because they think they can beat her. We forget Beth is not the worst competitor I've ever seen on the challenge. She's not awesome. She's not great, but there is a scenario where I could see her like doing okay in a final. She gives me Devin energy in that way. Not Devin, male Devin, female Devin. My girl who got last on Free Agents. I love you, Devin. But
yeah, I mean, but at the same time, you're comparing them to Adam and Steve. Like 80% of this cast rolls Beth in a final, and that's considering that Beth doesn't roll her ankle first.
That's we're talking about Nicole now because she's the one that rolled her ankle that one time in a final, I might add. But beside the point, we go to the challenge, and they're in this massive high-rise, big skyscraper. Leroy with one of the confessionals of the episode talking about how people you would never expect to take a dump are going to take a dump because they're all scared shitless. And I'm like, you know what, Leroy? I will give you that one. That was some good lines. I'll give you that, bud. So we go to the challenge. Challenge is called Edge of Glory. Basically, they have to solve a math problem, a really easy math problem, I might add. Which I don't know why the math problem was part of this challenge. I will be honest.
It shouldn't have been.
Literally,
every single team who competes, asterisk, pin it, get to it. Every single team that completes the math problem because it's fucking math.
Except for Corey and Big T. But like, quite frankly, with Corey and Big T, I don't think they were trying very hard.
I don't think they were trying, and also, once again, we'll get to it, but they had a reason to basically stop.
Yeah, exactly. So they have to solve a math problem. Then they go out over the edge of this building on this platform, and they're harnessed in. Don't worry. But they're tethered together. Just a warning, because anytime I think about harnesses on the challenge, I think about don't touch the safety latch. And like
they were still harnessed in. It was just someone doing some dumb shit.
Yeah. So one of them had to lean over and grab these flags that were suspended in midair while the other person held them and kept them from falling off. If they fall off, they both fall off because they're tethered together. And there were 4 flags, and it was the team who got the most flags in the shortest amount of time would win this challenge. Interestingly, before we get into the nitty-gritty of this, they said that if they fell off, they would both fall off. They didn't say you would lose or be disqualified, and that will become very important shortly.
I think they very quickly realized that if they made that a rule, half of the teams would not be able to possibly complete this challenge.
Yeah, because, I mean, we'll talk about that in a minute, but when Amber and Fessy go for that last flag, Amber's almost horizontal. Like, she is out there trying to grab that last flag, and she's pretty tall. So some of these shorter girls would have really struggled, I think, if they didn't have that in the rules. Not that we had to really consider it too much.
No.
So we start with Ashley and Anissa and Shane and Davon. They both finished the math problem relatively quickly. Ashley is very famously good at math. And then we go to the ledge. Shane and Davon managed to grab a flag. Cool. Happy for them. Love it. Hope you win. And then Anissa's like, no, we're not doing it. I'm not doing it. And I'm like, Anissa, you're the anchor. You're holding Ashley. Like,
doesn't matter.
I guess it doesn't matter. And he's like, nope, not doing it. We're not doing it. I'm nope, not doing it. And he's in the confessional. It's like, look, we don't need to win a star. We're not going to go in. If we do go in, we'll win. And, you know, we have time. We're going to buy it. We're going to hang under the radar for a little bit. And I'm like, okay, I respect that, but let's also not pretend like this was not Anissa just not wanting to be off the edge of that building.
Yeah, no, this was 100% Anissa not wanting to do this challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But also this is a pretty crucial flaw in the actual design of this whole season.
Mm-hmm.
There is no reason or penalty why you can't just not do a challenge.
Yeah.
There's no last place issue. Literally, the only thing that happens if you don't do a challenge is TJ gets annoyed at you for about 30 seconds.
Yeah. TJ told Anissa, you're better than this in this section. I'm like, is she? Is she though, TJ? Is she really?
And Anissa also was just like,
yeah,
TJ, I'm not hearing it. Do not start with me today because it's not happening.
Yeah. We talked about it before the recording started. One of the big issues that a lot of people were having with this format online is the fact that there's no penalty for last place. Because, spoiler alert, when we get to it in a minute, the House votes to send one of the teams in, and the team that wins the challenge gets to send the other team in. Very much Final Reckoning in that way. I always thought that in seasons where they don't have a penalty for last place, the penalty should just be if you don't do the challenge, you can't vote in the House vote. Which, granted, is not the same as getting sent into elimination. And sometimes you may even want to get disqualified so that way you don't have to vote. But
Exactly. It's not a penalty.
always. But I mean, in a situation like this week, sure. But can you consider the amount of teams that didn't compete in the challenge this week and how many votes that would be left? We'd have Shane and Davon, we'd have Adam and Steve, and Amber and Fessy. And hell, Amber and Fessy wouldn't even be able to vote. So it would have just been Shane and Davon and Adam and Steve. And that's all they had.
That's the thing. If you told teams you have to at least grab one flag to still be able to vote, a lot more teams likely would have grabbed at least one flag.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, some teams, I mean, I want to say for the first time ever, because that's how it's kind of discussed on the show, a challenge straight up gets rained out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
we had
various teams
get to go. Yeah.
And they simply looked and said, do you want to compete here? And all three teams, after looking at everyone who had already gone, said, no.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to.
And I think
and
it was
that
really
is a major
interesting,
issue.
the teams that were left at that point and like who I thought could have reasonably won this challenge. Nicole and Melissa had no shot and they knew it.
No.
But like Tarbo and Nani, I think could have won this challenge had they wanted to. But I respect Nani being like, look, we're good. We're fine. I don't think we need it. And then Devin and Leroy is a bit 50-50. I'm assuming Devin would be the person reaching out for the flags because Leroy's pretty tall. But the three of those teams not doing it, I get, especially after what happened when the other two teams that attempted this challenge went. But back to that part, we do have to acknowledge Beth sobbing before she even gets up there about how heights are her biggest fear, and everybody has mixed reactions to it. And then she says she's going to do it, and her and John A hug, which was weird. And then they get up there, and she starts sounding I can't remember who said it, but she sounds like a dog whose owner left them at the apartment. So they start whining and scratching the door, trying to get out.
That's
True
what
enough.
you sound like. That is what you sound like. Anyway. but yeah, no, it's Beth has essentially a full breakdown, which expected.
Relatable. It's relatable. The full breakdown is relatable.
I get it, but also, I don't know. Do like hypnotherapy at this point to like get over the fear? Like at least try something.
Release some of that pressure.
Fucking acupuncture, what the hell?
Just release some of that pressure. Besides the point. We get another round of people just not doing the challenge. And then Adam and Steve show up. They zoom through the math like real fast. And then Adam is going over while Steve's anchoring. They get the first three flags. And then they go, yeah, we're not going to be able to get the last flag, but we want it. And quite frankly, we don't care. The two of them hug, hold each other's hand, jump off the damn skyscraper, and grab the flag. These two are insane. I respect the hell out of them. But then you see everyone else's reactions of,
oh. And just to be clear, this is like this is the second group of teams to go. So everyone else that still has to third. Yeah. But the majority of teams are like, they jumped off the building to get that fourth flag. We're not doing that. So
we're going to take an L. Thank you so much.
We're just going to do the math and then walk off.
Yeah. When they jump and you see all the reactions of like, oh my God, they're crazy. I'm like, y'all, I get you want to win this challenge, but like, could you make your target any bigger? Like, I'm sorry, you already won the first challenge. Out of 13 teams, you came in first by a pretty big margin in that first challenge. And then you jump off a building to try to win the second one.
I get
Y'all
it.
better be winning
though.
every week. That's just what I have to say about that.
The thing is, 100%, a team was going to toss around their name regardless.
Mhm.
So even if they had simply not even attempted the math, they were like, I don't want to do math right now. I'm good. We can just go back down. They still likely would have been targeted because they have the least connections.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I get it in their mind of like, we are the big dogs. We are a massive threat. We're two massive guys. Let's just do the challenge and hope that no one else competes and no one else tries.
Yeah. And pretty much no one else tries. Almost nobody else tries. But one other team does try, and that's Fessy and Amber. And they crush this. They are going really fast. Amber grabs the first 3 flags with no problem. Again, Amber is very tall, and Fessy used to be a football player. He's got the muscles to hold her up. She gets almost horizontal, almost parallel to the ground to grab that last flag, but she gets it. And they are faster than everyone else. So Fessy and Amber are the winners of this daily. After a very impressive performance from Adam and Steve, I might add. But congrats to Fessy and Amber. So we then get informed about the twist, but we about the elimination format. We already knew at this point. We already explained it. How did you feel watching this? Because I don't know about you, I am not a huge Fessy fan. I don't like this man. I like Amber, love Amber, but I wish she wasn't lumbered with this man.
I mean, I get it. They even say that the reason that they haven't had issues is not because of the challenges. Challenges, absolutely fine. If they're paired up for eliminations, they're going to do absolutely fine. The reason they have issues is because during voting, they have different ideas and they go at each other. So this, in a way, is kind of just a way to be like, let's just work together. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I mean, this whole voting segment is a weird nothing burger because no one really wants to vote out a team. At least no one says a name initially, and then the obvious name comes up, and everyone's like, "Okay, done."
I will give Frank some props here. Frank says, "Look, I'm not winning this game physically. I'm just not doing it. So I'm gonna have to play a social and strategic game." And I will say, Frank, good awareness, but also don't count out Sam because you all managed to win Battle of the Seasons back in the day, even though you said Sam couldn't do that either. So have some more faith in your partner. I get why, but you never know. We've seen stranger things happen on the challenge. So Frank has this conversation and tells Nicole, and I can't remember who else was there. Melissa, maybe?
I believe also Nicole was there. Amber was there.
Amber shows up late into the conversation.
Late into the conversation.
Yeah.
The other people there honestly don't matter.
Yeah. But he says, I'm just trying to look at the team that's the least connected in the house, and honestly, that's Adam and Steve. And I mean, not a terrible read. I think that's pretty accurate. But also, let's not pretend like that's why you're targeting them, Frank. We all know why. But says this, Nicole's like, they're my friends. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. And then Amber rolls up into the conversation. And the same thing happens again, where Frank pitches putting in Adam and Steve. And Amber's like, I'm not committing to anything because I know Nicole has a mouth. And I know if I say that we're open to that she's going to go run and tell them. And then we're going to be on their radar. And I don't want that at all. Which I will say, Amber played this very smart. I will give Amber a lot of props for that.
Amber beautifully played this. This was I mean, we know why Amber does well, and that's because she's really socially in touch with the games that she's playing. I mean, I don't think she intentionally did it, but she kind of planted seeds against Nicole and Melissa unintentionally while never getting blood on their name.
Mm-hmm. I think Amber played this very well. Highly agree. And I also think what happens after this is probably a result of Amber keeping her mouth shut, which I think was a very good play on her end. Steve kind of does some logical deductions when he hears that his name is going around and recognizes that it's probably Frank for somehow, some way. We do not see Nicole tell Steve, but I don't think that happened. I feel like they would have showed it if we did. But Steve and Adam go to Fessy and Amber and tell them, look, if we go in, we think we're going to go in, give us Frank and Sam, and we'll send Frank and Sam home. Because we want to cut off the head of the snake. And I'm like, okay, great read, but like, is Frank really the head of the snake, or are you all just not talking to enough people?
Yeah. And I mean, is sending Frank home the only person who said a name, even if it's yours, a good idea? Because Frank is going to sink his own game if he keeps talking.
Mm-hmm.
Send in someone who's been incredibly quiet and still doesn't have that many connections, or is perceived as a threat due to their past. Like, there's a lot of better options besides Frank, but I also see why Steve immediately proposed that, and I do think it's at least a decent decision.
Yeah, I agree. I think Steve has a very good mind for this game. Even if he can be a little short-sighted from time to time, that was always my biggest knock with him in All-Stars 4. Sometimes he just makes moves to make moves. But we then get the house turning on Nicole because they assume Nicole told Steve, which did not happen. Never thought I'd be defending Nicole on this podcast, but for all we know, she didn't say anything. So going into this vote, it looks like it could be Nicole and Melissa. It looks like it could be Adam and Steve. There is this slight chance it could be someone else because the challenge loves throwing us crazy decisions like that all the time.
Yay.
But then the votes come in, and it goes pretty much exactly as you expect. Adam and Steve get sent into the elimination. And everyone voted for them. Their vote was not shown, so we don't know who Adam and Steve voted for. But Kellyanne and Sylvia, Frank and Sam, Devin and Leroy, Davon and Shane, Big T and Corey, Ashley and Dario, Anissa and Ashley, Donnie and Turbo, and Beth and John A. all voted for Adam and Steve. Katie and Veronica voted for Big T and Corey because Katie did her season of Road Rules with Steve and Adam, so she's not going to vote for them. And then Melissa and Nicole, Melissa is friends with Big T, so she's not going to throw her vote on Big T and Corey. Nicole is friends with Adam and Steve, so she's not going to throw their vote on Adam and Steve. So they burn their vote on John A. and Beth, which Beth gets very upset about for some reason.
I mean, they were never going to be the vote. It never mattered. It was literally just them saying a burn vote name. So
Beth is such good TV, though. I don't like Beth, but I love Beth at the exact same time.
Yeah.
She's chaos.
Beth is a bad game player, but mostly in a way that is good TV.
Yeah, exactly. Outside of, that time where she tried to break up a woman's marriage. We are glossing. I don't know if we made it clear enough. Beth tried to get John A. and her husband to divorce. I want to make that abundantly clear.
Just to be clear, not over some actual allegations. No, over the fucking challenge.
I mean, hey, money's money, but girl,
money is money, but
there are limits. When Shane says you don't know where the line is, that's when you know you have lost the point. So we see the scene of Fessy and Amber talking about who they're going to send in, and it seems like they're going to send in Melissa and Nicole. They said, we get Nicole out. I mean, we lose Melissa, but they're gone. We don't have to worry about them. We're not going to go in against Adam and Steve for obvious reasons. And it just makes the most sense. We're not really worried about it. And, if either them or Adam and Steve are gone, one of the house targets is gone. Which I think is the exact opposite of what you would want to do in this situation. But I mean, sure. And then we get down to the elimination, which this season is called the Jungle. I feel like they've used that name in the past, but I could not tell you what season they've used it on.
It was I want to say one of the ones in the late 20s.
I don't even know, but I feel like it's been used before.
It definitely has.
Yeah. Let me look to see if it got used on the OG Rivals, because I feel like that might have been where it was at. It was OG Rivals was the Jungle.
Okay.
So they've used it before, but a good callback here, Challenge. I respect you for that. So we get to the Jungle, and Fessy and Amber reveal that they have selected, literally out of nowhere, Beth and John A.
Huh?
I mean, they explain their logic of we're friends with a lot of these new school players, and we don't really have any connections to Beth and John A. It just makes the most sense for us to get them out. But, like, Beth is great to run against in a final. 1. 2, everyone likes John A. I don't think I have ever heard of a single challenge person that actively dislikes her other than Beth. And, like, I'm shocked by this. I'll be real.
I quite literally just burst out laughing.
Mm-hmm.
This decision makes no sense, but is also just possibly, I mean, I guess if people don't want to deal with Beth anymore, it's a good way to kind of just burn the round. Mm-hmm. Because either you get rid of Adam and Steve somehow, or you get rid of people that basically no one has an issue going home.
Yeah,
I mean, people like Jonay, they don't like Beth.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we also got to add in the other part of this too, which is they say they're trying to not get blood on their hands, which is very Big Brother of them. Look at what team, look at what show they come from. I'm not surprised. But they do their thing and they pick Beth and John A. And the Jungle is pole position. Something I do like about the challenge is whenever they have these seasons that have like mixed gendered teams or, with different gender compositions, they try to keep the eliminations as fair as possible. I think this was a great example of that.
Yeah. I at first was like, are they going to do some modified pole wrestle? What the fuck?
Yeah, it looked weird.
But no, it's weirder. It's substantially weirder.
Yeah. So each team has a long rectangular prism tube. It's divided into 3 sections: a yellow section, a red section, and a blue section in that order. Each team, one member of the team goes into the tube. The other person goes outside, rolls a dice that has either yellow, blue, or red on 2 of the sides. And whatever color it lands on, they have to stick poles into holes in that section. Then both members of the team have to get in that section of the tube, get a check, and then the team member who started in the tube goes out the other end of the tube, and the process repeats again. They have to stick poles equal to the number of rounds they are on. So for the first round, 1 pole, second round, 2 poles, etc. And they have to complete 5 rounds. The first team to complete 5 rounds and then have both their members get out of the tube and across this line at the end will win the elimination and have possession of the star currently owned by Adam and Steve. A little confusing, but it was fun to watch.
It was fun to watch. I definitely felt like this was a challenge that they were like, okay, we have a name. What can we do? Because essentially playing reverse Kerplunk Well, sideways kerplunk,
Was
but
my
with your
exact
own
thought.
teammates and sticking yourself into it too. What are you smoking?
It
Like,
was
how does this
literally
idea
sideways
come to
kerplunk,
fruition?
and I thought the same shit when I was watching it.
What the fuck is this? What is this shit?
Peak.
People
This is peak, Jack.
people complain about Big Brother and Survivor being a bunch of fucking carnival games.
You got a life-size board game right in front of y'all.
Like, we go from something where it's like, drop people off the edge of a building by grabbing flags. Yeah, that's what I expect from the challenge. What the fuck did you just present to me?
Yeah, it was weird. I loved it. I loved every second. So that was really cool, though. So we start the elimination. Adam and Steve get out to a pretty quick lead. But by the time we get to the fourth round, things have evened out. I would honestly say that John A. and Beth are ahead going into the final round. And then I don't know what happened, but I guess John A. decided she wasn't going to place the polls in the fifth section for some reason, because they get to the section at the same time, and before John A. has even placed a poll, Adam and Steve have won the elimination, meaning that Beth and John A. are eliminated from the challenge rivals.
Yeah.
Goodbye, Good TV.
Goodbye, Good TV. I mean, it sucks to basically have John A. experience a reverse bananas of going out first after winning multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, we will never probably have to hear from that man again after what he did this week. But
Please.
yeah, no. I mean, they edited this elimination so weirdly. I honestly think it was probably never close, and they just edited it to make it look a lot closer, because exactly what you said, it doesn't make sense if it's just, oh, they were tied perfectly during the fourth round, and then for some reason John A didn't put in any of the polls during the fifth round and the other team just finished. So, although, I mean, it is strange that instead of sending them immediately home, they were like, okay, now go back.
Yeah, I think the reason probably is that, like, they're having this last words section at the end of these episodes, and I'm not mad about it. I think it's kind of an interesting way to do this, because we get to see them like pack their stuff after they're out, and like, you know, could lead to more drama down the road if a more explosive team gets eliminated. I would like to see that personally. Just imagine the world where like Devin and Leroy get eliminated, and Devin's just going off on like Big T for sending them into the jungle or something like that. Like, I would pay money. Not that I don't want. I want to see anyone yell at Big T. I love Big T. But I also know Big T's going to give it just as much as Devin gives it to her. So we'll see that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we also get a lovely ending segment of Beth being like, yeah, we're going to be such good friends now. I'm going to come down to where John A is living, and we're going to have coffee, and it's going to be so nice. John A is like, I hope I never have to see this woman again. Let this be the last time I speak to this woman. Holy shit.
I will say, I think John A is being a little bit fun for the camera, because Beth does have her phone number now. I think they might have patched some things up a little bit more. I don't think they're ever going to be like best buds. And dear God,
never.
If they somehow manage that, John A is the most forgiving human being I have ever seen in my life. Because again, for the final time this season, Beth tried to end her marriage, but
that's not going to be the last time we bring this up. I'm near confident every single episode we're going to bring it up at least once, if not twice.
We're adding it as an addendum, y'all. Keep us honest on that. Beth and John A are out, which means Adam and Steve keep their star. So nothing changes star-wise. The same four teams still have possession of those stars, which are Adam and Steve, Nani and Turbo. Ashley and Dario, and Devin and Leroy. No one else is going to be able to run the final until they get a star, but we're going to have to wait a week to see who gets one of those stars. Jack, let me ask you honest question. If you had to guess who's going home next week without knowing anything about what's going to happen.
I mean, I would not be surprised if Sylvia and Kellyanne have an even bigger blowout, because the end of this episode is capstoned by the two of them going at it. Like, it is full, like, verbal screaming match of like, you are not playing the game, you are actively weighing me down, I have shit that I need to be doing. And one of the best lines from Sylvia is, you have dogs, I have a family.
We are not the same. And but we didn't mention it earlier during the challenge because I kind of thought it'd be fun to bring up now. Kellyanne was ready to go in that challenge. She was ready. And Sylvia did not want to do it. She's the one that pieced out for the team. And Kellyanne got pissed, as she should. I respect you for that take, Kellyanne. Sylvia probably went a little too far here, but quite frankly, I mean, it's the challenge. I expect people to go a little too far. So, mad respect to both of them, though. They're both really good competitors, and I really, really, really hope that they're around longer, because I just got rid of one of the nastiest feuds on this cast in week 2. So, y'all better not disappoint me next week. You better win that challenge just to stay another week. Get rid of some of the nothing burger rivalries. Get rid of like Anissa and Ashley, as much as I love Millionaire Mitchell.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously, some teams still are completely like, once again, Ashley and Dario, we heard, even though they have a star, they are not relevant to this episode in the slightest.
Dario got a singular confessional, and it was the establishing this is what's going on confessional, and that was it. No personal thoughts, no nothing. We didn't get a dang thing from Ashley K. Nothing from her.
But granted, we didn't get anything from her the first episode either.
We got the one thing about her saying that Dario is still attractive, and that was it. And
yeah.
Again, I love Ashley. Ashley is a really, basically, if you're an Ashley that's been on the challenge, I probably like you to some respect. But it's aggravating. I know they only have 12 teams. Like, they had 13 this week, but they only have 12 teams. You couldn't give like sneak more Davon confessionals in there, please. I know we got like 4, but like more, please. Again, everyone here is a member of the Church of Davon, so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So the more Davon things we can get, the better, and we will very happily take it. And her confessional this episode was also amazing.
I highly agree. So quick little draft update for those of you who are curious at home. It is the most nothing draft update I could possibly give you, which is the leftover team was the first team eliminated. Who's surprised by that? Not me. So Beth and Johnny are out, which means Delana and I both still have 6 teams. Jack, I guess that means you're eliminated by default.
Yeah, it was very like slightly joked of like, yeah, and you get Beth and Johnny, and like, great. That's exactly the team I wanted. I was so excited. Yeah, give me 6 of them. That's exactly what I want. And I lost my whole draft in 1 round. And just to be clear, I also had Johnny during my Newport draft. So, like, I did actually lose. I drafted Johnny because I was like, yeah, you know what? This is a good time, without checking anything, mostly who she was paired with. If I'd known that, I would not have picked her. But, you know.
I mean, did you pick her to begin with? Did you pick her to begin with? Or did you just miss the cast assessment? Real tea. But beside the point, everybody, let us know who you are excited to see. As a friendly reminder, Beth and Johnny are out. Who you're excited to see go far in the rest of the season. And you can find out what we think about the rest of the season here at the Cup TV. As a friendly reminder, like, subscribe, share the video, do all the fun things, because quite frankly, the channel's growing and we got a lot of more content coming at you in the near future. So please be around for that. Don't forget you can buy your merch, including but not limited to cup mug at laundrycreations.etsy.com. Once again, that link is in the description down below. And it's been really fun tuning in with you guys, but we're going to have to head out. So we will see you next time, everybody. Cheers.
Cheers.